And welcome, New Mexico, around the state, around the country and world. If you're listening, you are tuning into Dialogue, where we are changing the conversation. And this is our special episode. We spend the first of every month dedicated to our youth and their own show, which we entitle
Listen to Us.
Take it away.
Hello, this is Listen to Us. I'm Sophia King.
And I'm Cassandra.
And today we're going to be talking to a representative from True Kids One, which is a youth media educational nonprofit based in Taos.
Her name is Alora, and she's going to be talking to us about her opinion on this program and what it has done for her. And Alora, where are you going to school right now?
Hi, I go to school at McGill University in Montreal, Quebec.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your involvement in New Mexico when you were still here and the effect that you hope that your project and that you hope to have on the state and on the government.
Right, so I worked with True Kids One, which is outside of Taos, New Mexico. I guess the impact I was hoping to have would be to generate more student voices and more student involvement, especially independently, outside of academic situations. I went to a high school that was less than ideal for my situation, and I found that to be able to really thrive, I had to seek alternative sources of nourishment and enrichment from my academics. And that's really where True Kids One came in, because I was looking for a source of relief from that situation. And so I started to do a lot of work in youth voice and youth involvement, and that's where my project snowballed. And then True Kids One started to grow and grow and grow, and now they're working with the New Mexico legislature, and they have a bill going to try and get funding for their pilot program, which is all across the state, and it's really fantastic how it's grown.
How are you directly involved with True Kids One?
Well, I guess I could say I was a student. Rosie Hyatt, the director of True Kids One, was my mentor for my senior project, and that's really when I became involved. I started creating media on my own. I started hosting radio shows, and then when I went off to college, I kind of became almost a consultant. So anytime they have something that they maybe want someone with a younger view to take a look on, Rosie will bring me in, and I'll take a look, and I'll give them some ideas and maybe a direction I think the project should take. I wouldn't say I'm in a formal role with True Kids One right now, but I have definitely maintained my contacts, and I probably work with them anywhere from once every 2 months to once a month. I'm in constant contact, and I'm constantly working with them. But I started as a student, and as I grew up and as my skills evolved, so did my role within the program.
Nice. What is True Kids One? How is it affecting Taos students? What's the message? What's the goal?
The message really is, at the core, youth empowerment. What True Kids One wants to do is it wants to connect young people with mentors who are going to give them the skills that they need to succeed in a path with media in their future. So I think True Kids One's primary goal is to, show students that, hey, New Mexico is this really budding, developing media source, especially in Hollywood, and they have everything at their disposal to take advantage of that. All they need are the skills to show that. And that's a message in the center of it. It's about showing young people that they're never too young to start doing things professionally, and that there will always be opportunities for them if they're willing to work for it.
So Taos was chosen specifically then because it was in New Mexico?
So the director lives in Taos. He has a family in Taos. I think it was just, he was there. That's where it started.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the mission to get kids more involved in the media. That's something that kids are already very involved in with apps like Instagram and Snapchat and all those kinds of things. And there have been major problems with cyberbullying. And so we were just wondering, is there a segment that, is incorporated in this program that addresses that issue, and has that become something of a concern for this project?
Absolutely. You're definitely right. Young people are way more involved in media than they were in previous generations. And one of the most influential elements of the True Kids One model is the media production hive, which came from Dr. Yanti Friesen. The media production hive is really a curriculum for schools to develop a better, deeper understanding within their students of the role that they play in media when they're creating content, when they're interacting with it. And I think the most important, in my opinion, part of the model is what Dr. Friesen calls digital citizenship, which is the idea that we're not just citizens of, say, our state or our country anymore. We're citizens of this digital world, and we have a responsibility for how we act on it, and we're going to be held accountable to our actions. And a lot of young people aren't aware of that. They aren't aware that they can really be, there can be consequences for what's done on the internet. So that's a massive, massive part of the True Kids One model, is saying, like, yes, you have opportunities within media, but you have to be smart about what you do on it to take advantage of them.
Right, so your message is you can benefit, you just have to be precautious. Love.
Yes, exactly.
So when True Kids One enter the school systems, is it a priority for all students, or was it, a club? Could you choose? Could you sign up?
As far as I'm aware, it was more of a priority to get it into the schools as part of the curriculum. So over the summer, I was very fortunate to be a part of Dr. Yanti Friesen's professional development, where the teachers from several schools in Taos came together to learn about the media production hive, learn about the curriculum that he had developed, and learn about how to apply it to their schools. And from what I got there, True Kids One's priority is to get it integrated into the entire model of the school. I think the teachers, it was optional for them to come. It wasn't, I don't think many of them were required to come, but we saw such a large turnout because I think the model really resonated within them. It gave them this message that they were, teaching for something important. They were teaching to teach their students how to be good people and how to be successful in whatever they want to do.
Okay, and you earlier referred to the hive. What is that?
So the media production hive, that's just the name of Dr. Friesen's educational model. All of the information on it can be found on True Kids One's website. You can go to www.truekids1 as in the Arabic numeral.org, or you can email info@truekids1.org. Again, that's the Arabic one numeral to get all the information on it. There is a PDF, there's a video about it. It's really, really an incredible model that is student-driven. And I definitely consider myself as somewhat of a freelance worker. I don't like to work for organizations, profit or nonprofit, that don't meet my standards and, progress or give me progress in what I'm looking for. And I am looking for empowering youth and empowering the youth voice. And Dr. Friesen's methods and his educational model are all about focusing on the student, showing them what they're capable of. And it's developed in a hive way. So it develops kind of from, this honeycomb pattern of everything that a student needs to understand before they can be a really good digital citizen and before they can take action within their community through media.
Could you maybe go a little further on some of the skills that these children are being taught on how to be responsible with the information they're providing in their creations, their media work?
Definitely. So Dr. Friesen calls it Grow and Glow. It's about self-improvement, personal achievement, collective challenge, and team success. So there's definitely that element of collaboration. And then alternative procedure and production flow. So what he's trying to do is isolate the individual skills and then bring them up to the level of teamwork. I think Dr. Friesen has this model in mind because he sees that when a student has undeveloped individual skills, it's very hard for them to put them into action in a team setting or in a collaborative setting. So in relation to being, a digital citizen, I think we're all very aware that bullying and treating others with disrespect is just it's not a good thing to do. In general, it's frowned upon. We've all been taught about it. But for some reason, it's still present in our society, even though we've been teaching it for so long. So I'm so sorry. Where's the disconnect there? And it tends to happen when students have that untapped individual skill.
So you guys are trying to really reach the individual, maybe even teach them social skills, like behind the screens of media teaching and how to work on air with technologies. It's really attacking the core, the individual thoughts of the student and how to involve them and how to teach them how to elaborate on their thoughts, cooperate with other students. Is that like a deeper meaning?
I think it's both. I really think that when you look at the model, the goal of it is to give kids skills that are applicable within their community. So I think media, and I think a lot of people think that media is the future of many, many corporations and companies. I mean, they're all running through these technology and media companies. And that's where this idea of, okay, well, let's get the kids started young. What are they interested in? Teach them these skills. Get them connected with mentors. Get them internships and jobs and apprenticeships. But also teach them that, media is not something that they exist above others in. It's not something that holds them to a standard that is different from what they're held to in real life. They're still responsible for treating others with respect. They're still responsible for learning how to collaborate. They're still responsible for the very, very human aspects that sometimes get lost within technology. Mm-hmm. So that's where Dr. Friesum's model really uses those two ideas of we want to maintain humanity and maintain collaboration and communication while still learning these skills that are really applicable in real-life situations.
So in these programs, in the schools that this program has already been implemented in, are these kids going to be graded on this curriculum? Or, is it a pass-fail type situation? Do you get different, like A, B, C, D, F, grades on it based on what your superiors think or what your peers think? Or how is the grading system on that work?
That's a great question. So it's definitely going to vary by school. But in Dr. Friesum's method, the idea was that after you have created the final product, your job is to now go back and allow yourself to accept criticism from other people, whether that's your peers, whether that's your teachers, your parents, people you've never met who are commenting on it on YouTube or Instagram, to accept that criticism, to take it and look at it and see if you can apply it in some way, and then to continue to refine the work that you've created. Because with media, any type of media, you're never going to be 100% done with it. I can't tell you for sure what the grading scale is. I think it's definitely going to be a little bit different from, the traditional, if you get the right answer, you get a check mark, because this is a somewhat subjective goal of teaching students that they're digital citizens, teaching them these media skills and teaching them these collaborative skills is going to be, it's going to take a little bit more work to grade, and it's going to make the grading system a little bit different. But overall, the method is approaching something that's much more important than an A, B, or C letter grade. It's approaching real-life skills, and it's approaching independence and individuality while still being able to collaborate.
That's beautiful. So within the context of the projects these students are making, is the student coming up with their own ideas to create a project, or is it more of a teacher, giving them a guideline saying, I want you to make a project about bluefish, for instance, I don't know, random? Or are the students given a bit more freedom, Or, is there an expected route to take when choosing what to make your media project on?
Right. So no expectations, really very little input from the teacher except maybe on technical issues. But even then, not a lot. It's really student-driven, student-created, student-designed. It is definitely focused on what the students are most interested in. So, for example, the model is in place on one of the Pueblo schools in Taos, and they've already built a recording studio because that's just what they decided they wanted to do. And students can go in there, they can record videos, they can record music, they can record radio shows, and it doesn't take a lot of equipment. It just takes enough to make it functional. And the students, all of their projects come from their own creativity. And it is very much linked back to the whole core of True Kids 1 of, youth empowerment. Like, this is about what you want to do. It's not about what's going to get you a good grade or what's going to get you into college or what's going to get you some job in the future. It's about realizing that you have an interest, learning the skills to use that interest, and then showing people what you're made of, showing them what you can do. So just like True Kids 1, the model is 100%, definitely almost 100%, 99.9% student-driven and student-designed.
And do you think, since we're giving these kids their freedom, you said, it's their own creativity, do you think that this type of class or curriculum could be more influential than a regular core class like math or science?
Definitely. So I went to a school in high school. As I mentioned earlier, it wasn't an ideal situation, but it was a really great curriculum. They focused on a method of teaching that's called Socratic dialogue, which, instead of sitting in a classroom and being lectured, you're encouraged to ask questions about the material that you're given. So if you're in history class, you'll have a discussion about the economic policies of the Dark Ages. It's very, very interesting, and it is a great way for students to learn because it encourages them to ask their own questions, not just the questions that are going to be on the exam. And I think True Kids 1 and the model is very similar in that way because traditional education is a lot of memorizing and then regurgitating information, which isn't necessarily the best thing for the 21st century. This is an age that's all about creativity. If you want to keep people's interest, you have to create content and you have to create solutions that are interesting and new and marketable. So instead of teaching students to just learn the information and regurgitate it when the time is right, we want to teach them to unlock their potential, their creative potential, their critical thinking, their analytical skills, their collaborative skills, because that's what's going to be really useful for them in the future. And that's why I think the model is going to be more beneficial than a traditional education, especially in this time, because we're not dealing with the skills that traditional education offers anymore. We're dealing with creativity. So
you would agree that the current school curriculum should be reformed and maybe shaped around this model?
Yeah, or something similar like it. I think that something similar to it would be more beneficial because I think keeping students in the dark, making them believe that they can't do anything unique or anything independent until they're 18 years old is, first of all, really damaging to their mental states as a teenager, and then it terrifies them when they turn 18. Why do we do that? Why don't we teach them, how to be independent, not just in this is how you pay your taxes, but this is how you start your own business, and this is how you start working as an intern for a company, because those are also skills that they're going to need to learn.
So after the March for Our Lives that the teenagers led, and they're kind of a new class of teenagers kind of showing that we can take charge of our lives, was True Kids 1 at all inspired by the March for Our Lives Act?
So I'm involved with a lot of reform shows in terms of True Kids 1. Almost all of the radio shows I have done are reform-based. So my first one was education reform, and then my second one was gun reform, which was brought on by the March for Our Lives because we had a March for Our Lives in New Mexico, and a lot of people from Taos went. We talked about how those students are really, really bringing to light youth potential, that we're no longer just a class of people, between the ages of 12 and 18 who sit back and do our homework. We're here to recognize political issues. We're here to recognize economic issues. We're here to educate ourselves, and we're here to put our skills in action when we know the time is right. Because those students saw their friends killed. Those students saw their friends treated in a horrific, animalistic manner. And they decided that they weren't going to sit back and just let it happen. And I think that it is a beautiful example of students finally taking charge and saying that they aren't willing to just let it go by.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that political influence that these kids are having, this new generation of teenagers. So I know that in the current political system, a lot of the young people are disagreeing with what the government is doing right now because, like you said, we're not the traditional do your homework, go to school, accept what they teach you if it's wrong. We're not that type of generation. And that generation is currently running the country, and they, always think that they are making the best decisions. But can you talk about what kind of influence this would have on the political aspect of this country, and even, in other countries that are suffering from political disagreement, from political discourse?
Right, yeah. That's a really interesting question. So when we had our True Kids one, we call them a round table because we kind of sit around and we all talk about these ideas on air. When we had our gun reform round table, we had a couple of more conservative voices, while the majority tended to be liberal. And I thought that was incredible in a sense because New Mexico tends to be a very liberal and democratic state. And I came from a state when I moved that was also very liberal and democratic. And I hadn't been exposed to other ideas. I felt like, sometimes in the education system, you get one narrative or another. And it can be sometimes difficult for young people to understand that there are alternate ideas and alternate opinions that they can look at and they can try to understand. I think True Kids one of their focuses is, hey, you don't have to accept everything they tell you at school because media and the internet can offer you other pieces of information that you can go then fact check and you can see what you agree with and what who you want to vote for, what policies you want to see enacted. And the radio roundtables are a great example, again, similarly to the March for Our Lives, that students are ready to do their research. They're ready to sit down, learn about the policies, learn about the problems, and learn about all the solutions that are being presented and say, this is what I think, and argue for it. Students are becoming so confident politically, and I think that is incredible because they really are a generation that is some of the most educated. They're in the time of their life where they will probably be the most educated they will ever be. They're learning new information every single day, whether that's from the internet or school. They're constantly learning. Their brains are always alive. So we should listen to what they have to say. Their ideas could change the world, and now they have a platform to share them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You were talking about how New Mexico is a very liberal state and how you had conservative voices, and I think this could spread to conservative states and liberal states alike because this is just such a great program to try and implement. So it is my understanding that we have to say goodbye now. I want to thank you so much for your time. Talking to you was really just enlightening for Sophia and myself, and it was really great to meet you, and it was really great to hear what you have to say, and I hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Laura.
Thank you. If anyone wants to get in contact and support the Senate bill, which is Senate Bill 103, you can contact Governor Carlos Cisneros at 505-986-4362. You can also go to the True Kids One website. That's truekids1, the Arabic numeral.org, or contact them at info@truekids1.org. Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. It was such a pleasure, and I can't wait to hear more about what you guys are doing.
We can't wait to
you.
hear what you're doing either. Thanks. Well, we need to take a break, and we will be right back after the messages.
Let me hear. Tell me, dear. Tell me you. Talk to me. Talk to me. I love the things you say. Talk to me. Talk to me.
And we are back with Listen to Us. I am your host, Sophia King, and I'm with my other host,
Cassandra.
and we just had an enlightening interview with a representative from True Kids 1, and basically, it was great. Their motto is to empower the teenage mind, to give a voice to the teenagers. They're basically just empowering teenagers, period. It's listening to kids and teaching them that they can speak and have good ideas at any age.
Yeah, and so what they're trying to do at this point is to implement it. And they've been trying to pass it through the state. It's a Senate bill, and it's Senate Bill number 103, and they're basically just pushing to get support from the government and support from the state as a whole to spread this program just beyond Taos and beyond the schools that it's already in, to try to empower teens all over the state and hopefully to other states at some point.
This bill that could possibly be passed would fund these projects and fund the True Kids 1. As of now, it's just in Taos, but there are plans to soon expand this model throughout New Mexico. Now, I want to ask you, New Mexico is a liberal state. Do you think this kind of environment would work in a more conservative construct?
I think if this bill gets passed and if it does go throughout New Mexico, there are some more conservative parts of New Mexico, like the southern half of this state has been known to be a little more conservative than the northern half. But I think that it is good to start it in a liberal place like Taos because, it's a very free speech, free, enlightenment of opinions, and that's a very, I don't want to say it's a liberal thing, but it's something that liberals hold in high esteem. They don't want to be told that they can't say what they want to say, and that's a very valuable skill and a very valuable right that we as a state and we as a country hold to a very high standard. So I think that it could work in a conservative environment. I just think that the government isn't always going to support what the people say, and the different environments of liberal and conservative aren't always going to agree with each other on what they say, but that isn't necessarily the goal of this project. It's not to make everyone agree on every issue that they post on social media about. It's not to make everyone say, oh yeah, that was a great presentation, now we're all gonna go do that thing that you said. That's not what this is about. This is about getting kids to be able to express how they feel in a sophisticated and credible way. And so I think that mission will be accomplished.
And this initiative involves 20 schools, but K through 12 range, which means kindergartners. There's 5-year-olds apparently being involved in this kind of work study. And that, just think about the power behind, pre-adolescence, not really matured yet. You're a 5-year-old and you're given the option, to voice your opinion in this more freeing, incredible way. And, imagine what these younger kindergarten, first, second, third graders that's going to be a whole different generation. If this can really get to them, we implement this into the younger kids more. Would, you think there'd be a difference in the way the kids turn out when they're older and the way they respect people's opinions or voice their opinions?
I don't know if you can really change how people respect other people's opinions. I don't know if that's something that you can teach or something that you can, inherit from your education. But I definitely think that if younger kids get a hold of this opportunity to express something that they deeply care about, even if it's a 5-year-old, I think a lot of issues could be resolved that way, because you wouldn't think that a 5-year-old has a lot of problems, at home, at school, you would think their life is pretty good.
They ran out of glue to eat.
I know, but if something like that were to happen and a kid came to school that actually had problems, whether it was an abusive family at home, or his parents are drinking, or her brother won't leave her alone, or the list could go on and on of what could be happening in a child's life. Those problems could come to light much sooner. They could be dealt with much more professionally, and that could be a earlier sense of relief for these kids who feel like nobody listened to them because I'm 7. Nobody will think I'm serious because I'm a child, and I think that's really something that it's an opportunity to address problems that they care about, whether it's because it's happened to them or, it's something that they care about at such a young age anyways.
And there's this competition for best app, and a group from True Kids 1 submitted their app for suicide awareness or mental health awareness, and they won this award. They chose a very kind of controversial, prevalent, traumatic topic or, subject to create their app off of teen suicide. Do you think, this project could be more like you specifically choose the issues that are, hurting our teens? And you think that could help if it's more like goal orientated, that they're going to fix this, they're going to address this big problem and then fix it?
I think that's definitely a big part of it, and especially in Taos, with the Taos Bridge, like a lot of people have been known to commit suicide there, and so I think that's a really close spot to their hearts in Taos, and that's why they created this app. If we were talking on a larger scale of New Mexico, we could make an app for drunk driving, because that is something that we deal with a lot here, and that is something that we can never seem to get rid of, that we can never seem to teach people about enough so that the numbers will go down, so that people stop dying because of DWI crashes, And so I think that it's a big part of where you are and what state your environment is at when this program is implemented. I'm sure that a lot of kids, if they had this opportunity to receive this curriculum, would talk about school shootings, gun safety in schools. That's a huge thing, especially with the Parkland shooting, especially with the synagogue shooting earlier this year. It's crazy. I heard a statistic that said that hundreds of people had already died in the month of January of this year due to terrorism and due to attacks like that. And it's something that needs to be addressed, and it's something that has been addressed. And a program like this implemented through schools could just make, protests like that just skyrocket.
Do you think by specifically using this, or do you think if True Kids 1 were to, or any, media program that, had the same set of mottos, do you think if they were to kind of refine the creativity by saying, we're going to use this to apply our skills in advocacy for social justice issues, do you think that would do more harm or good? Do you think they would lose the creativity skills, or do you think it would ultimately, be completely beneficial?
I wouldn't say that it would be better if it just focused on social justice issues. I mean, that is a very broad topic. You know, social justice covers a lot of problems, but I think that, you know, regardless of what these kids choose to write about, wherever their creativity comes from to make these projects, to use the education that they've received, I think that the most influential ones could very well be social justice issues, and that those are going to be the ones that, you know, politicians in the White House look at, and that, you know, countries abroad look at and address publicly. But I mean, that's not to say that something outside of social justice isn't to be respected, and I think that creativity is something that is valued in the thinking process of how these projects are made.
So right now there are many Taos schools participating in this program, and they have plans to expand this model to schools throughout New Mexico. Do you think, you know, there'll be any backlash if that happens, or do you think if we can implement this model, let's say universally or even across the states, do you think our interpretations of teenagers' feelings will just, you know, be completely changed by a more respectful overtone, or do you think society as a whole, you know, could be influenced by this small town Taos idea?
I definitely think so, because in the world that we live in now, people often call our generation, you know, the generation after the millennials, and even some of the millennials, you know, they call us emotionally oversensitive, and that's something that, you know, a lot of young people deal with when they're trying to advocate for something really important. You know, a big example of that is the LGBT community. I mean, they just get so much criticism, and they think that they're being oversensitive for everything. But I think that if something like this, an educated, sophisticated program, were to be set out even across the states or even across this state, because New Mexico isn't as, you know, racially segregated or gender segregated, you know, we're more of an inclusive community. So if we could see a visible change in New Mexico and prove that to the rest of the country that this is going to be valuable, I definitely think that it could change the way that we perceive teenagers and the way that we perceive a youth curriculum.
Also, I just want to highlight what Miss Espy had said earlier. She commented on children, teenagers. We have been going to school for the past 6 years of our lives nonstop every day. And right now our brains are just, you know, we're learning. Our brains don't have any time to, stop or forget or get lazy. Like, it's a constant circulation of information. We're learning something new every day. And she said, you know, this is the smartest we'll ever be. And, you know, with that tone, you think, well, I'm going to grow up and become dumb. And then, you know, that kind of contradicts what society has been always telling us, that, you know, respect your elders, elders know best. With age comes knowledge. But, you know, that statement she said really blew my mind. If you think about it, students our age, if anything, you know, we know more about the way the world works. Maybe not in a street way, but in a book smart type of way, and the way we can voice our thoughts and everything.
That's true. And, you know, I loved what she said too. And I think that another interpretation of that is, you know, our generation has so much to learn at school. You know, we go every day, and, you know, I mean, I see it with my parents. You know, I'll be home doing my calculus homework, and my dad will ask me, "What are you doing?" And I'll say math. And he has no idea what I'm doing, you know? And I mean, it's not that he's not a smart human being. It's not that he's not an intellectual man, because he is. Mm-hmm. But it's just the fact that new discoveries have been made every day for the past 50 plus years, and it's not stopping anytime soon. It's not slowing down anytime soon. Technology, other things are being influenced and created every day. And so, with all that new improvements comes the responsibility to tell the children that don't know about it yet. You have that responsibility to teach them. And so when she said, this is the smartest we'll ever be, that could be taken as the teenagers who have to learn about everything that's being processed, in this day and age are the smartest teenagers that have ever been. And that's why so many of us are standing up, and that's why so many of us want to voice our opinion in social media ways.
Intellectual Cassandra. Well, that was a great talk.
All right, let's talk about the kids the variety in kids, first of all, because, in an idealistic society, if this social media education were to be implemented in every school, every teenager would want to voice what they want to say and they would care. But that doesn't always happen. I mean, not every teenager is going to be passionate about everything that's put in front of them. That's just life. You have people who are more passionate about math. You have more people who are passionate about writing. People are different. And so let's talk about the situation of what happens when this program is implemented and kids just don't seem to have any interest. Like, what do you think is going to be the kicker for them to find something that they care about? Even if it's not this program, how do you think that they can use what they learn to put it into something that they do care about?
I mean, I guess this goes with anything, not just True Kids 1, but I think you have to be understanding with who you're dealing with. And most importantly, you have to find an even ground, even if that takes time or if that takes conversation. We can't be afraid of taking a chunk out of our day to maybe get to know this person. And then again, if that kid isn't into it at all, period, then I think we need to respect that. And, by having that kind of harmonious, you come and go type of, there's no strings attached, that could also be an influential point for someone that's not really into this. By giving them the option, it's in our human psychology that, if your mom says wash the dishes, right, well, you're going to wash the dishes. You're not about to wash the dishes because she told you to do it. So if it's kind of like a suggestion, or if you were laying out all the facts, you can do this or you can do this, and you can use this in this way, and you can use this to help you do this way, but ultimately you can decide whether you want to even involve yourself. That could be a huge attraction. That could be a big seller to someone who's not as, excited to voice their opinions, because that happens.
Yeah, and that's true. And I mean, the only thing that has been, kind of a string attached for me in this whole thing is that this is going to be a required curriculum. And even if it wouldn't affect every kid in New Mexico, because we do have private schools, we have charter schools, we have other schools that, wouldn't fall under the category of schools that this curriculum goes into, I think that, like you said, when somebody tells you that you have to do something, you're not as excited to do it. And so, yes, this is founded off of something that kids wanted, that a group of kids wanted, but that doesn't encompass every teenager in the state of New Mexico, in the city of Taos, in the country of the United States. So that's just really something that I'm wondering, how are they going to get these kids interested if they're not interested, if they can't spend the time, if they feel like they just don't belong there?
Right, and I think, again, this can apply to everything, that we have to break down our expectations. So, like, if the mentors of this program are expecting every child to come in, give it 100% passion, and, submit their projects to awards, which there have been a lot of projects from True Kids 1 that have won awards. But if you have an expectation for that, then that's going to lessen the quality of, the truth self-expression, because you can no longer, do, what you truly want to do, because, that doesn't always reach everyone's expectations. So to keep kind of ambiguous, within the project, and to be understanding again, I think that could inspire kids. And if we kind of implement that philosophy to our schools, I think that too could help kids get inspired. If there's not expectations, and that goes for grading, and because how can you grade someone on their artistic ability when art encompasses everything that you create? Grades and expectations, that's all based off of preference. And ultimately, everyone has different preferences.
That's true. And, if this is implanted into the schools, I mean, that could very well change our education as a whole. I mean, if kids are getting better jobs, they're getting better salaries, if they're doing better and they're getting this curriculum from a New Mexico education, that could boost us up, because New Mexico is very teeter-tottery on the education system right now. But I really think that this could be really, really beneficial, and I think it could help in almost every aspect, education, youth, the older generations, social media. I think it could just improve everything.
Right, and I'm hopeful that this does, reach Santa Fe, and then, reach Albuquerque, and then maybe even go further, because like you said, this is breaking down barriers. This is giving teenagers a voice, and historically, we've never really been given a voice, especially in a schooling system. So to offer, students this option is a great start, down this long road we can, all begin to start together. And I'm truly enlightened. And I'm grateful, like Miss Espy said, it was kind of a coincidence that it happened in Taos. But like you said, I don't think any other place could have been a better starting point.
All right. Well, that is it for us today. My name is Cassandra, and I'm here with Sophia on Listen2Us. And we will see you guys next time. We record on the first Friday of every month at 5 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Listen to us.
Talk to me. Talk to me. I love the things you say. Talk to me. Talk to me. In your own sweet gentle way. Let me hear. Tell me, dear. Tell me you love me so. Talk to me. Talk to me. Tell me why I want to know. The many ways you speak of love I've heard before, and it sounds so good every time. Please say the part I love just once more. Darling, I'm so glad you're mine. Let me hear. Tell me, dear. Tell me you love me so. Talk to me. Talk to me. Tell me why I want to love.